All right, let's talk about the term cyber warrior. We hear it thrown around all the time, but what does that really mean? Today, we're going to pull back the curtain, go way beyond the Hollywood stereotype, and look at the complex reality of warfare's newest frontline.
So, when you hear that phrase, what's the first image that pops into your head? I'm guessing it's probably someone in a hoodie, right? Hunched over a keyboard in some dark basement. And you're not alone. That's the picture Hollywood has been selling us for years. But the real story, well, it's way more complex, and frankly, a whole lot more interesting.
So, let's rip off that hoodie stereotype. We're about to break down who these people actually are, what makes them tick, and all the different roles they play on these new digital front lines.
Okay, check this out. The formal definition right here already kind of blows up our movie stereotype, doesn't it? A cyber warrior isn't just some rogue criminal. We're talking about professionals, maybe people in the military, or even just individuals driven by a specific cause. And notice, it's about both attacking and defending. This world is so much bigger than just hacking.
So, let's start with the most famous players in this game, the hackers. And to really get a handle on what drives them, the security world has this great simple analogy. It all comes down to three different colored hats: white, black, and gray.
First up, you've got the white hats. These are the good guys, the ethical hackers. And get this, companies and governments literally pay them to try and break into their own systems. Why would they do that? Well, it's to find the weak spots, the cracks in the digital armor, so they can be fixed before the bad guys find them. The key word here is permission. Everything they do is authorized and totally illegal.
And on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, you've got the black hats. These are the malicious actors, the wicked people. Their goal is illegal and often destructive. You know, stealing data, crashing websites, causing chaos just for profit or disruption. This is your classic movie villain hacker.
But here's where it gets complicated. What about someone who breaks the rules, but they don't have purely evil intentions? What if they think they're doing it for a good cause? Well, that brings us to our third and most ambiguous category. And this is the gray hat. These folks operate in that moral and legal gray area. A gray hat might hack into a company's network without permission, but they're not there to steal anything. Instead, they want to prove a point, to expose a security flaw. In their mind, they might be doing the company a favor, but they're still breaking the law to do it.
So you see, it really all boils down to two things: intent and permission. White hats are defensive, and they have permission. Black hats are malicious, and they definitely don't have permission. And the gray hats, they operate in that fascinating middle ground. No permission, but with really ambiguous intentions. This kind of nuance is what truly defines the modern cyber landscape.
But the world of cyber warriors goes way beyond just these three hats. There's a whole ecosystem of other actors out there playing really critical roles on the digital battlefield. So let's meet a few of them.
You've got botnet herders. Think of them as digital puppet masters. They secretly infect thousands, sometimes millions, of computers with malware, creating this giant network of zombie machines. Then, they can command this botnet to do whatever they want, launch massive cyber attacks, send out tons of spam, things one person could never do on their own.
Now, this is one of the scariest threats out there. It's not someone breaking in from the outside, but the person who already has the keys, the insider threat. This could be a disgruntled employee or someone recruited by an outside group. And because they have legitimate access, they can cause enormous damage and are incredibly difficult to detect.
And of course, terrorists and extremists have fully embraced the digital world. They're using cyberspace for everything, from sending encrypted messages and recruiting new members to gathering intelligence on potential targets, all while hiding their activities online.
You know, not all attacks are super high-tech. Social engineering is the art of hacking the human. These attackers use deception and psychological tricks to persuade you to give up information willingly. They might pose as someone from IT or your bank to gain your trust and get you to hand over a password.
And phishing is probably the most common type of social engineering you've seen. It's that malicious email that looks just like it's from a service you use, a password reset request. Their whole goal is to trick you into clicking a bad link and giving up your credentials. So we've met this diverse cast of players. But what about the battlefield itself? Cyberspace is nothing like a physical war zone. It operates by a completely different set of rules, which, as you can imagine, creates enormous challenges for traditional military thinking.
And this contrast is just crucial.
In traditional warfare, you can map the terrain, you know a weapon's power, and you can physically see the damage after an attack. But in cyber warfare, the terrain is changing every second. You're never quite sure how effective a cyber weapon will be, and it's incredibly difficult to even know if your attack was successful or what harm it actually caused.
Okay, let's pull all these different threads together. We've gone way beyond the hoodie stereotype now, and we've seen the really complex reality of both these warriors and the battlefield they fight on.
So what's the big takeaway here? The term cyber warrior isn't one person. It's a whole spectrum of actors with different skills and motives, and they're all operating on a battlefield that's invisible, constantly changing, and has a set of rules that we are all still struggling to write.
And that leaves us with a final, really important question to think about. In a world where our economies, our power grids, our social lives, everything runs on code, where does the battlefield actually end? The front line isn't some distant place on a map anymore. It runs right through the devices we carry in our pockets every single day.